Hello and welcome to the Michigan and Trumbull podcast. I'm Alex Freeman, joined as always by Luke Jaconis. With the Christmas tree in the background, the holidays are rapidly upon us. It's the off season. Luke, how you doing?
Ho, ho, ho. How the hell are you? I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Life is good. Busy, but good. Yourself?
Yeah, same. Busy, but good. I was looking at my calendar and I was like, oh, I have like 3 evenings of freedom between now and the
Yeah.
end of the year, between holidays, work stuff, already planned things.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are doing a show. It'll ultimately be our cut 'em and keep 'em show. But yeah, just a little off-season update before we dive into it. Luke, you want to talk us through some awards?
Yeah, let's talk awards because let's be honest, folks. This has been a lame start to the offseason, at least for the Detroit Tigers. Not much of anything has happened. George Lombard was in the running for the White Sox managerial job, but then I think he withdrew his name from consideration because he does not suffer from CTE, which is good for George. So
he
proud of you, buddy.
he, he realized what organization he was interviewing with and
Yes.
went, oh wait, hang on,
Uh-huh.
whoa.
He must have thought he was going to a Red Sox interview. He's like, I'd be happy to go to Boston. They were like, no, George, this is the South Side of Chicago. And he was like, oh,
Ooh,
I don't think I can
ooh.
make that flight anymore. Sorry about that. Sorry
I
about
think
that.
it's. I
So yeah,
think flights are canceled.
yeah, no one ways in or out. Sorry, George. Yeah, so mainly a big thing for the Tigers at this point in time. Some awards. Our man AJ Hinch nominated for Manager of the Year alongside Stephen Vogt from Cleveland, and I am totally blanking right now on Cleveland's man Quattro. Is that his name, right? From
Mhm.
Kansas City. I think I'm totally butchering that name, but to each their own. And then Tarek Skubal is an AL Cy Young finalist.
Color me
Is anyone
surprised.
surprised?
I'm shocked. I mean, I jaw dropped on that news.
Absolutely just crazy. Just crazy. Yeah, in terms of Scooble, let's start there. I mean, no one should honestly be surprised, right? Like not he's gonna win it. They
This
may
is
as well just said he's the winner.
truly a year that the other guys get to just go, it's an honor to be nominated.
Yeah. 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 So that's I mean, there's not much more to say. Tarek Skubal is nominated for the Cy Young, and he is going to win the American League Cy Young. So congrats to Tarek. AJ Hinch, his quest to bring home an AL Manager of the Year title might be a little bit more complicated. By the way, the name was driving me quite crazy. Matt Quattrero, manager of the Kansas City Royals,
Mhm.
nominated, as well as I said, Stephen Vogt for the Cleveland Guardians. So yeah, I think AJ is going to have a little bit tougher road to hoe, so to speak, in
Yeah.
regards to bringing home his trophy. I have a feeling. I don't know. Honestly, all three are fairly deserving,
Hmm.
but Stephen Vogt, I think consistently overall, start to finish, I think the Guardians played the best from top to bottom from April to October. Obviously, all teams fell short in the postseason, but I would probably, as much as it pains me to say, I think he walks away with it. But I don't know, man. What AJ Hinch did those last 2.5 months of the
Hmm.
season, like literally playing every matchup perfectly, while their backs were against the wall pretty much from the trade deadline all the way till when they were eliminated in the postseason. Definitely deserves the recognition he's getting. And then even Quattrero for the Royals. I mean, they were awful last year, spent some money in the offseason, and they were pretty darn good this year. So I would probably
Yeah.
rank them. I'd probably go Steven. No, biasly, I would go AJ, Steven, Matt. I think it would shake up if we could like look at votes breakdown. I think it'll go Steven, AJ. No, I'm sorry. AJ, Steven, Matt is how I would bias pick it. I think it will go Steven, AJ, Matt come actual voting.
Yeah, I think you're right on how it's going to come out actual voting, but I do also want to just like agree and emphasize your point that of those three gentlemen, the person who did the wildest managerial job to steer his team into the postseason was AJ Hinch. Now that being said, I think Stephen Vogt did a great job um, playing chess with AJ Hinch in that series, in that playoff series, and I think that that's ultimately going to be kind of what tips the competition is that in that moment, head to head, he won that piece of chess to get a grand slam off of Tarek Skubal, who's going to win a Cy Young.
I'll just always remember Game 4. Damn you, David Fry. He just had to hit that tying go ahead, whatever it was, in the 7th or 8th inning in Comerica. That's when the wind shifted, my friends. But yeah, it's regardless. I mean, I know, as they say, come Oscar season, it's always just an honor to be nominated. But truly, for a guy like AJ Hinch, who was staring down the barrel of his 4th consecutive subpar 500 season and not making it to the playoffs, the job he did from August to October was incredible. So he definitely deserves to be nominated. I would love to see him win it, and I hope it happens for him.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that just like having those 3 guys nominated, just like emphasizes what a surprise the American League Central was this year.
Yeah.
That as we talked preseason, as we talked many times as we got into the postseason, that and down the stretch there, we thought finishing a game or 2 above 500 was going to be enough to win this division, and then everybody came out of the box just on fire. The Chicago White Sox literally on fire. Everybody else figuratively on fire.
A dumpster fire, if you will.
A very, very stinky hot dumpster fire.
Yes, sir.
And and an organization that has said, yeah, we're just going to kind of run it back next year.
Yeah,
so
there's no signs of improvement.
What is going to happen there?
Yeah, no signs of improvement. Poor Colin Lyman. Got such a nice guy and such a crappy team he has to watch. Speaking of stinky hot garbages, are we following real quick before we get to Come or Keep 'em that the Tampa Bay Rays don't have a stadium to play in currently up until recently?
Well, they did the breaking news.
Yeah, the breaking news.
Mm-hmm. They're playing at George Steinbrenner Field. The Tampa Bay Rays will actually play in Tampa Bay next year, instead of St. Petersburg.
Mm-hmm.
Will they have more sellouts when they only have 11,000 seats? We'll see.
Let's play this game. Will they have more sellouts or rainouts next season? And I have a feeling it's going to be the latter, because anyone who knows anything about the state of Florida is that it is like a moody 11-year-old teenage girl whose emotions just change on a dime. So 1 minute it's sunny and beautiful, and the next minute it's throwing a temper tantrum and it's raining for 4 hours straight. And unfortunately, this time for the Tampa Bay Rays, they don't have a nice dome to prevent that. So yeah, a lot of rainouts coming. A lot of rainouts coming. Also, the summers in Florida are miserable in terms of weather, in terms of heat specifically. The humidity will absolutely murder you. So yeah, if you're looking to grow the game, Rob, this probably isn't the solution. I get it. Can't definitely plan for a hurricane, but boy, oh boy, this is going to be a rough season, literally on the field for the Tampa Bay Rays, because they are either going to get just swept away in storms all season, or they are going to melt like a popsicle by the 3rd inning.
There are 2 Major League Baseball teams playing in minor league stadiums next year.
Mm-hmm. That's so bad.
A disaster.
Yeah. So bad. And isn't it telling? It's like it's the 2. First of all, it is very funny that it is, without question, people used to say the 2 worst stadiums in baseball were the Coliseum and Tropicana Field. Sometimes Guaranteed Rate sneaks its way in there. But for the sake of this conversation, literally the 2 worst stadiums that everybody hates, those 2 teams they're homeless. They're homeless right now. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's bad. It's really bad. It's pathetic, really. It's just Rob Manfred, man, he loves to grow the game. Just loves to keep growing that game, Rob. Good for you. And honestly, a lot of it too is like the owners.
On the back of increased viewership for the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
That we did see perhaps the inkling that maybe baseball is back as a sport that people are getting into, that the game is going to start to grow again. And then we have this happening, which is going to not help. It's not going to help.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, and I know I was busting Rob Manfred there, and I mean, obviously, I don't like him, and the grow the game thing I think is just low hanging fruit at this point. But this also, once again, falls on ownership. Let's not make any
Mhm.
mistake about it. I mean, John Fisher with the A's is a cheapskate, so we knew that this was happening at some point. I mean, this was inevitable. You can't really blame ownership for Tampa Bay because, like I said, you can't really prep for a hurricane. No one
Well,
thinks that they're going to go to bed. But also, how many years have they been in development trying to get them a new stadium? And like, this is what happens when you move as fast as molasses. Sometimes higher powers in life have a different plan, and now you, your team, your fans are going to literally die this summer when they are melting in their seats. And yeah, it to me it falls back on ownership.
and the new stadium currently in a little bit of doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the Tampa Bay Rays, proud residents of George Steinbrenner Field
If
for the
you if
next
you
20 years.
if you own any type of team, whether professional, minor, whatever it might be, if you don't obviously care about that team, I mean, I guess the simple answer is money, but why do you still own the team? Because also for someone like a John Fisher with like Oakland, they're not selling out every night. So like I would love to see like what is he making on the back end, or what is he making? What is he pocketing that he's like, this is a lucrative business for me. I get it. If you're owning the Yankees, you're owning the Red Sox, I get it. You're making a lot of money every season. But if you're a bad team and you're a bad owner and you don't clearly care, why even own the team? Give it to someone else who wants to give it a go.
Well,
I don't
part of
know.
it
Is
comes
that
down to media rights deals they get that just get distributed between all 30 franchises.
yeah.
Plus the parking lots, make a lot of money on parking lots. In-stadium food and
Yeah.
beverage, make a lot of money there.
But how can you make a lot of money on parking lots when you have 1,100 people parking in your parking lot a night in a stadium that can seat anywhere from 40 to 50,000?
I don't know,
Doesn't
charge
seem very lucrative.
40, 50 bucks a car. That's
Yeah, I guess. I mean, for us, absolutely. But
not
I
a bad
mean,
night.
for these owners who are billionaires with a capital B, to me it seems like I don't know. I think I'm a bit sensitive right now. Not gonna lie, because while your football team is flourishing, once again, my football team is just choking on their nuts because they just cannot continue to get out of their own way. So I think I'm just a little bit oversensitive right now when it comes to owners and ownership. So forgive me, folks. Maybe I'm not my best self in this moment.
Not everyone can be the Firestone Ford families.
Let me ask you a question real quick before we get to cut 'em or keep 'em. Eventually, we will get to Tigers baseball, folks. Alex, I'm not just saying this because you're my friend and co-host. Are you aware that there's a very good chance the Detroit Lions are going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Yes, I am.
Like it's not a like, oh, this would be really cool, like a pipe dream. They had a fun run. Like there's a legitimate chance that they are going. I think they are going to win the Super Bowl. I believe it in my every fiber in my being. I think they are going to do it this year. You're about to
I,
watch, I think, your team win the Super Bowl.
I will say that the way that they were able to win the game in Houston
Mm-hmm.
when the offense looked awful in the first half, um, when it looked like Jared Goff could not complete a pass, and then they found a way to win. The defense held them in the game, no
Mm-hmm.
points. The last 3 drives of the game for the Lions, where it had to happen, they made it happen, which is something that I feel like I only ever watch the Tom Brady's of the world, the Patrick Mahomes of the world
Mm-hmm.
lead those drives. Like I have seen single game winning drives from my quarterbacks. But I have not seen multiple drives needed in a row. Defense needs to stop. We got to make all of these things fall like this team, except from dynasties and Super Bowl winning teams. So yeah, it has become increasingly real. the last couple weeks. They've also that was kind of the conclusion of the tough glut of their schedule. They still got the Bills later, 2 games with the Packers, not going to be easy games. Another game with the Vikings. Um, Certainly places to stumble, but they have now officially won every possible way
Mhm.
this season, and so going to be a very tough out if they are an out.
I think because I'm already in my mind thinking Super Bowl. So let's if it comes down to on paper, I don't think offensively there's a team that can go toe to toe with them in the NFC or excuse me in the AFC. So if we're looking at like come Super Bowl time, like yeah, the Chiefs are good; they're undefeated this year, but I think this is not the strongest Chiefs offense that we have seen in recent years. I mean, they almost got stunned last weekend against Denver. So yeah, it, good things are happening for Lions football right now. There's no doubt about it. But I think this is year it's going to click. I would have a hard time seeing them getting upset by anybody in the NFC to even get to the Super Bowl. And then once they're in the Super Bowl, I have a hard time seeing that offense not performing and just stepping up and winning. I think right now, like if it
Mhm.
comes down to a Lions Chiefs Super Bowl, I have full confidence that the Lions can outslug the Chiefs. I really do.
Yeah,
Um, so it's interesting. Yep. Good things for you. Good things for you. Also, while we're on Detroit sports, the Pistons also are not terrible this year. Just
that's true.
throwing that out there. They're not great, but they're not terrible. So
Yeah,
hey, Detroit
they're going to
sports
win.
on
They're going
is
to win.
on the up and
They've
up.
already won more than 4 games, I think. So
That's a
that's an
start.
improvement. The Red Wings also not bad.
Yeah.
Probably going to sneak into the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
They missed just barely last year. So yeah, Detroit
Yeah.
sports on the
Definitely
rise.
on the definitely on the comeback. Definitely on the comeback. Meanwhile, in the city of Chicago, sports. What are those?
Canceled.
Cancel the season. Alex,
Um,
let's do some cut 'em or keep 'em.
let's do it. Let's dive into it. Obviously, Luke, I think there are some players here we don't really need to have much discussion about in terms of keep.
Agreed.
I think that there's a little bit more discussion to be had around cut.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a couple guys that I think we're both going to just be like, yes, please get this person out of our clubhouse forever. So let's go through this. Let's go through this 40 man. Let's start with the catchers.
Okay.
We got Dylan Dingler and Jake Rogers.
Keep them both.
That's how I feel. I agree
Yep. Keep them
completely.
both.
I think Jake has been great. He's a way plus defensive catcher. He's
A Gold Glove
contributed
finalist.
enough at the plate. And I think Dylan Dingler also like showing good progress as an excellent backup catcher. Could be also a guy that like if he takes off could be a nice little trade piece that's available out there
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah. Love Jake Rogers. We've talked about it a bunch of times. We love him. He's really kind of the last remaining piece of the pre AJ Hinch era, and so it was really cool to see him get rewarded with some postseason baseball this last year. Offensively, his numbers were down this year compared to 2023, but defensively, I mean, he's Gold Glove. He's a Gold Glove finalist. I mean, I think that kind of speaks for itself there, right? So definitely keeping Jake Rogers. Dylan Dingler, defensively, okay. Offensively, pretty horrific in the small sample size we saw him this past season, but he's a backup catcher. I don't ever expect him to be leading the guys out there every day, but on a day we need to give Jake Rogers some well-deserved rest, go to Dingler, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, agree completely. Let's head over to first base
Okay.
and one Spencer Torkelson, Luke.
Whew. This is probably the most controversial one, I feel like. Keep him, but do not start him. That's what I would say. You can keep him, but I do not want him starting, or he at least needs to earn his playing time come spring training. Hold on, I'm going to adjust these blinds here. It looks like I'm going straight to heaven. Go ahead.
I don't know what's happening. But yeah, I agree. I agree completely, Luke. That we need to. This ties together with kind of Jace Young over on third base. That we need an addition at either first or third base that
Yeah.
is a a big bat and ideally plus defensive. And we don't want to get rid of Jace, obviously, at this moment. And I agree that you probably can't yet cut, just like fully cut Spencer Torkelson. He was a 1-1. He's kind of like a perfectly replaceable player at this moment. He was plus 0.3 offensive WAR. He was minus 0.3 defensive WAR on the year. So, evens on the average with Spencer Torkelson. And so I think that you end up keep both of those guys, but in this offseason, you need to bring in somebody to take the side, to take one of the corners and be a big bat. Because also, you know what? At this point, we made fun of it when we were when we first brought Spencer Torkelson into the team about the project to make him a third baseman. Like
Yeah.
at this point, like why not try it? Like I know he's not plus defensive, and third base is harder than first base, but maybe it'll spark something.
I mean, we can get to Jace Young here in a second, but my comeback to that would be Jace Young has been given 2.5 months of major league experience. Mm-hmm. Spencer Torkelson just wrapped up his third full year. So I understand Jace may be left a little bit to be desired, but also keep in mind, this is a former top 100 prospect. So this is a guy who I think has a pretty high ceiling, just hasn't had a chance to showcase his talents to his fullest abilities. Spencer Torkelson is a 1-1 who's had 3 full years in the major leagues and has just continuously showed how inconsistent he is at this level. So again, do not cut him. You can keep him, but he should not just be handed this first baseman job out of camp on a silver platter. There are plenty of guys, even if it's guys within the team, that you can have him try to compete against. I personally think they should not be ruling out bringing in a guy like a Christian Walker. I think he would be an excellent fit for this Tigers team as it currently stands. Would I love Pete Alonso? Absolutely, but that's pretty much a pipe dream at this point. So my opinion on Spencer, you can keep him, don't got to cut him, but he should not just automatically be gifted the starting first baseman job on a silver platter, come next March. So that's where I'm
at. Colt Keith at second base.
Keep him. Yeah, keep him. Absolutely. Yeah. Colt. Yeah, great.
He was great.
Yeah, I do think Colt Keith, I do think he definitely more second half Colt Keith got off to a horrible start. Then he played lights out baseball for like a month and a half. And then his second half of the season overall was just kind of fine. Like it wasn't great, wasn't awful. It was just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's still a young player that's developing, and seems to be on the very correct trajectory, going along that way. Shortstop. We'll start with Trey Sweeney, and then we'll talk about the other guy.
Definitely keep Sweeney. Yeah, keep him. Like him a lot. I don't know if he is the long-term solution. I don't think anyone in the organization thinks he is. But in the interim for the next couple of years, I think definitely could kind of be a plug-and-place guy who saw a small sample size of him. But that was right now it's hard to argue against that. Scott Harris didn't have a good win with that Dodgers trade because Liranzo looks absolutely awesome right now in the fall league, and Trey Sweeney had a good first impression. Honestly, when you think back to that trade, everybody won. Like sometimes you get hosed on a trade. The Dodgers got a great pitcher in Jack Flaherty who helped them win a World Series. And the Tigers got 2 prospects, one who's already at the major league level and contributing, and one who's in the minors right now and is definitely looking like he's going to be a force to be reckoned with once he makes his debut in Detroit. So all around, everybody wins, shake hands, you're happy. But definitely keep Sweeney.
Yeah, I mean, you said a great offensive WAR of 0.8, defensive WAR of 0.6 for Trey Sweeney. Great numbers. We'll take those all day for a potential everyday shortstop there. Especially when you look at Javier Baez's numbers. I understand that Javi was injured for a decent chunk of this season, that he was playing through some pain, etc. But that doesn't explain the previous few years of Javi Baez. And also, he had an offensive WAR of negative 1.1 and a defensive WAR of 0.1. So either way you slice it, Javi Baez not contributing, in fact, negatively contributing on the offensive side. I understand they're not going to eat the contract. He's going to be here next year. But I would cut him. I would cut him and eat the money. They have the cap space. They have the room. Cut him.
Same. Cut him. He's kind of similarly to Torkelson. He's been given opportunities, so it's not like no one could play the card of like, oh, come, you can't. Oh, he's only been here a year. You got to give someone more than the first 6 weeks of the season. Guys like Spencer Torkelson, guys like Javier Baez have had a plethora of opportunities, and they have continued to squander them time and time again, especially Javier Baez. So yeah, it's clearly not. Apparently, he's a great presence in the clubhouse, which is shocking to me because the guy to me seems like such an asshole. If I'm just being honest, I've ranted about it before. He never has ever once, really striked me as a team player. But apparently, according to AJ Hinch, he is like really well liked in the clubhouse. Now, whether that's true or not, AJ's never just going to come out and be like, this guy sucks in the clubhouse. No one likes him. Nobody talks to him. They're never just going to come out and say that. But apparently, according to AJ, who I like and trust, he's a big presence in the clubhouse. Unfortunately, his presence is not a present, and it is awful to watch. And I don't want to watch him on the team anymore. We tried. I'll give credit to Illich and Avila for trying to bring in a big contract, paid the money, brought in a big superstar. It just didn't work out. And it is time to move on and get Javier Baez out of Detroit. Eat the money and get him on his way.
Andy Ibanez.
Keep him. He's been, and I know I'm on record for I was a bit of a Scott Harris hater, more than a Scott Harris hater for his first season and a half, 2 seasons, whatever. When I would make fun of his moves, I usually would make fun of Andy Ibanez, like, oh yeah, that's the move that's going to really push the needle, huh, Scott? Andy Ibanez. I'm not saying it's quite pushing the needle, but damn, is he not fun to watch. Absolutely destroys left-handed pitching. Probably the biggest hit in Tigers baseball history in the last 10, 15 seasons, something like that. So, yeah, Andy Ibanez, definitely keeping him.
Ryan Kreidler.
Cut him. Guy doesn't know how to touch first base. Send him packing.
See, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't need to say more from Kreidler.
I'm on the fence on Kreidler, mostly because his numbers kind of make him a little bit meh to me. But I also I'm not gonna fight you on cutting him.
When we're looking at utility positions of like a Zach McKinstry, a Trey Sweeney, those guys deserve their spots over a Ryan Kreidler. Again, Kreidler hasn't had a ton of time to really showcase his talents, but he debuted, I want to say it was in 2022. It's 22 or 23. But regardless of when, it's been very unimpressive to me. And I just laughed because when he got cut and didn't make the team out of camp last year, he gave a fair answer. It was like, oh, I'm pissed. Like, I'm a good player. Like, I should be on this team. And then I think his like first or second game he got called up was that road game, I think in Houston, where he forgot to touch first base after he got a hit. And I was like, that, my friend, is why you didn't make the team out of camp. Pretty easy prerequisite that you just crapped the bed on. But yeah, no disrespect, but cut him.
And then Zach McKinstry. I think you just answered the question there. Keep.
Yeah, a surprising keep. Yeah, Zach McKinstry, man, he's honestly like a cat that's got 9 lives. Every single time I'm like, yep, this is the nail in the coffin for McKinstry. He sticks around. And also he had a very good postseason for the most part. I mean, he had the home run. I mean, yeah, I mean, again, he should not be the long-term solution, but the fact that, I didn't even think Zach McKinstry was going to make it out of the month of April when he got traded here in 2023. Truly, I thought he was like a 3-week filler. And here we are moving into season 3. And McKinstry, yeah, I'd say keep him.
And then the last infielder on the 40-man, Eddie Slennard.
Yeah, keep him. We haven't really.
We haven't seen him.
So. We haven't seen him. So yeah, let's keep him. Yeah,
let's keep him.
Again, I would give him a shot over someone we haven't seen over a guy like Kreidler. So yeah, let's keep him.
All right, let's take a look at the outfield, and I'm going to start us off with Akil Baddoo.
Oh, this is a tough one, but it's time to cut a keel. It's
Yeah.
time. It's time.
Yep. I
Yeah,
agree.
it's
I agree. It was a fun
he
story for a little
yeah,
bit, and
yeah.
it just has not ever returned to that excitement.
As I said, Jake Rogers was like the last remnant of like the pre AJ Hinch era, like the Ron Gardenhire era, that kind of timetable of guys. Badu is the last remnant, in my opinion, of like offensively the guys from AJ's freshman season with the Tigers, the Scopes, the Robbie Grossmans. I guess Jake Rogers is still around, but yeah, like those Candelario, the Wilson Ramos, like when Badu came up, he kind of came up with a lot of those guys. I was like, oh man, this could be. Are we looking at the next Tigers core right now of Jonathan Scope, Akil Badu, Jamer Candelario? And it's just not worked for Akil. Had a great first week of his professional career, but outside of that, it's been fairly underwhelming. So it is time to bid Akil Badu a fond farewell and cut him.
Yep. Yep. Negative offensive war, negative defensive war. The
Sums
club
up.
is no longer in a position to carry guys like that, which is great.
Yep. Yep.
Let's talk about Kerry Carpenter.
Keep him.
Yeah, I
Love Carp.
agree. Keep him. Like I don't really ever want to see him in the outfield. I
Nope.
only really want him to DH.
Yep.
But let's keep him, and he's technically an outfielder on the roster. So
Keep him.
uh, I'm pretty sure we're both going to agree that this is a definite cut. Riley Green,
Yeah.
uh,
Terrible. Terrible.
just
Get him out of
awful.
here.
Definitely not potentially the future face of this franchise.
Yeah. Horrible in the clubhouse. Everyone hates
Just
him.
seems like a jerk.
Doesn't
Another
hustle in the field.
another guy that I think we're going to fully agree on here on the cut category is Parker Meadows.
Yeah. Another
Um,
guy just really
that guy
lazy. Just
right out of
doesn't really
here.
put forth any effort. Um, yeah, Parker and Riley. I mean, those guys rock. Truly, they're probably my two favorite Tigers players right now. So, yeah.
Someone turned my light off.
Oh, sorry, I can
We
give you
got
some of the sunshine that's been blinding
Thank
me
you.
on
I
my end.
appreciate it. Just gonna pull up my.
Do a little readjusting.
Well, hang on.
While you're readjusting, yeah, if I had to think right now, my
Here we
top three favorite Tigers players, that's a toughie. That's a really toughie because I do love Jake Rogers. I know he may
go.
not be statistically the best, but my top three right now are probably Riley Green, Parker Meadows, Tarek Skubal. I don't not sure quite the order of who's
Yeah,
1 to 3, but those are probably my top three. With Jake Rogers really knocking on the door at number 4. I love
yeah.
how Parker Meadows plays the game. He is a delight to watch in the outfield, and I am so happy we have him um, shagging fly balls for us because man, that dude can run.
And then how about Matt Vierling?
Again, kind of Andy Ibanez. Vierling was a guy too. I kind of made fun of when he first got here, but really has solidified himself on this team as well. Big Matt Vierling guy, and my significant other says I look like him. So
Yeah,
that's what I've
I
been
would
told.
say that's probably the your most lookalike Tiger. Is
Yep,
Matt Vierling.
that's what I've
Also,
been told.
I just want to highlight he had the highest offensive WAR on the team.
Yeah,
A 2.9.
I can see it. I can see it.
Incredible.
Surprising though that's higher than Riley Green, who right?
I just said that, and now I think that I just noted it, but Riley might have been like 6.6. But
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I was like, yeah. I mean, I was gonna say
it
Riley
was
Green.
2.9. It was surprising. I didn't have the. I
Yeah,
guess I didn't have the.
I fact checked you right there. I just threw you to the
You
wolves, and I'm
did. It was
sorry.
such a good job, though. I mean, it's good. We
Yeah,
want to make sure we're bringing our
but
people
when you
the
first said to me,
accurate information.
I was like, holy shit, that's impressive. More than Riley Green, a guy who literally made the All Star team. Like and then
I don't know. I
but
think
then as
Riley
soon as
was
I
at 6.6.
yeah,
I
that's
didn't write
okay.
that down because it was just such an easy keep.
That's okay. But we're keeping him regardless, and
Yeah.
we're keeping each other as friends. So that's all that really matters from this episode. So it's all good.
The next two guys on the outfield list, I for me they're both keeps.
Hmm.
And I think you'll agree with me that it just like let's see some more time, which is Justin Henry Malloy and Wenzel Perez.
Oh yeah.
Um, like statistically, neither of them are, uh, you know, look like all stars at the moment, but I give the eye test on both of those guys is they're going to
Mhm.
be great as they adjust to the majors. So easy.
I think, yes, keep them both definitely. Big fan of how Wenzel Perez plays the game. And truly, he's like the Cinderella story of all the players on the team, I think, this year. Had some huge hits throughout the season. So definitely keeping Wenzel. And for Jahan, um, I think if he is given enough at bats, I think he is going to become a sneaky big power hitter for this team next season. I just don't know
Yeah.
where he fits into the overall architecture of this team because defensively, not great. So you're looking to DH him a lot, but then you also have a guy in Kerry Carpenter who's a hell of a DH. But as we just said a moment ago, we don't really ever want him touching the outfield. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a tricky. I mean, I guess you're starting, Kerry when right-handers are on the mound and Jahan when there's a lefty on the mound. But I keep them both, and I really think Justin Henry has a very high ceiling with this team, and I can't wait to see what they both do in their sophomore season.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. You want to do starting pitchers or relief pitchers?
Let's do starters.
Okay,
Actually, no.
great.
Let's do relievers because there's more
Okay,
relievers to
great.
get through. Yeah,
Okay, let's start with Bo Brisky.
keep them.
Agree.
Yep, keep them.
Mason Englert.
We've seen him now two. We can cut him. We can cut him.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've seen him
I
two
was
seasons.
equally on the fence with Mason Englert. Mostly my with the relief pitchers. My test was, do I remember that this guy's on the roster? And if I remember that they're on the roster, do they make my blood pressure go up?
Mm, great, great questions to ask yourself.
Mason Englert fell into the do I remember this guy's on the roster category.
Yeah, yeah. He's. I feel like we haven't cut many people. So for the fake, so for the sake of the title of this segment of the show, I will say let's cut him.
Alex Faedo.
Keep him. Go
Yep,
Gators. Former Gator.
agreed. Jason Foley.
Keep him.
Keep.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Gunther.
Keep him. Yeah, yeah. Limited appearances. We got him a lot in the second half of the season, obviously, but was very impressed by Gunther.
But yeah,
Keep him.
looked great.
Mm-hmm.
Brennan Hanafy.
Uh, keep him. Yeah, keep
Yeah,
him.
I was a pretty strong keep there. I think he had a if they're highlighted this color in my notes, it means they had a
Mm-hmm.
WAR above 1. So
That's all you need.
yeah,
That's all you need. Keep him.
Tyler Holton.
Keep them. Keep.
Yep.
This is my next person. I was going to say, if I do a top five favorite Tigers, I think Tyler Holton might crack my top five because, I mean, again, and I got to give credit to Scott Harris. I mean, he brought in the Ibanez's and the Matt Vierlings and the Tyler Holtons, these guys who are no name waiver wire pickups for the most part, and Tyler Holton, maybe next to Emmanuel Clase, arguably for sure, I think one of the top three relievers in the American League this past year. Tyler Holton was, so yeah, incredible talent. Definitely got to keep him.
Brant Herter.
Keep him.
Yeah.
Really excited to see what he's going to do next season. I was
Yeah.
super impressed by Brant Herter. Again, very very small sample size, but definitely keep him.
Alex Lang.
Oh boy, cut him.
Yeah,
Yeah, I,
I'm a pretty strong cut there. That was a pretty easy decision on my
crazy
end.
because I mean, I was saying back in the early part of 2023, I thought he was the best closer in baseball. I mean, his
Yeah.
stuff that those first 2 months in 2023 looked lights out, and I don't know what happened, but to answer kind of your one prerequisite question, does he make your blood boil? Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a better pitcher on this team right now who makes my blood boil through the roof than Alex Link because you never know what you're going to get.
Yep.
And I feel like we have a good core group of guys now with Foley and Holton and even like a Will Vest that,
Mhm.
when they come in, yeah, they're never going to be perfect, but 9 times out of 10, I'm like, yep, I feel fairly confident with this group of people. Foley sometimes a little bit shaky, but not nearly as bad as Alex Lang has been in the past. And also coming off an injury, I just think it's time. I don't think they will cut him, obviously, but
Mhm.
in the sake of our game, I would cut him.
Yeah, I since you mentioned Will Vest, I'll say I would also keep Will Vest.
Keep him.
Obviously,
Yep. Yep.
that one's pretty easy. Brian Salmons,
Keep. Yeah.
yeah.
I'd keep him. Yep.
Ricky Vanasco.
Did we even see Ricky Vanat? Did he pitch this year at all? I feel like if he did, he was like a
I feel like he made maybe one or two appearances. I don't.
sure.
Yeah,
Just
I
because I don't have an opinion one way or the other on the guy, so I want to give him a chance to at least fight for his stake in the game. So we'll keep him.
which is also how I feel about Brendan White.
Yeah. Now he was hurt this year, most of the season, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I would keep him, give him another shot. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go into these starting pitchers. We'll
Let's
start
do
with
it.
Derek Skubal because that's a pretty easy keep. Reese Olson.
Keep him.
Yep.
Yep. Love Reese.
Casey Mize, I think we're going to keep.
I don't know. For me, the Casey Mize, Spencer Torkelson, Matt Manning, like these are our future.
Yeah.
Those dreams are dead and done for me. I'm not saying Casey Mize still doesn't have the ability to be a serviceable major league pitcher, but the idea that he is even remotely close to a number one, that idea is so dead and gone and out the door for
Yeah.
me, I can't even begin to describe it. So just because I have faith in Chris Fetter, I will slightly keep Casey Mize. But for me, the clock is just at about midnight for Casey Mize, and as I'm sure about to get here in a second, even Matt Manning. But yeah, I will barely keep him.
Yeah, I think both Mize and Manning are sitting in similar boats for me. In that
Mm-hmm.
like keep now, but this is the last year that they can even live in this like middle ground area. Like I
Mm-hmm.
need them to either become a very very solid 3 4 5 guy in the starting rotation or convert to a long reliever that
Mm-hmm.
contributes really big in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Either is fine. Either of those things have a great spot in the organization for me. um but it's got to happen this year. There's no more of this like no, like we got to make that call because I do think that the potential is there. Chris Fetter's an
Mm-hmm.
incredible pitching coach,
Yep.
and can make that happen for those guys, but it's gotta happen now.
I mean, you want to talk about opportunities. I know. I mean, Casey Mize had the Tommy John, and Matt Manning only pitched in a couple games this year because he was in AAA and then he got hurt. But I mean, opportunity wise, they both have been given a bunch. I
Mhm.
mean, Casey Mize debuted in 2020, Matt Manning 2021. So again, it's similar to the Spencer Torkelson thing. Like, I don't want to hear this crap about like, well, they need more time. Like they've had plenty of time. They've been given plenty of chances, and they're just not cutting it. And it's so crazy. Would you ever have thought that if we rewound the tape 5 years ago, like when we talked about these Mize, Manning, the Scoobles, that we would be saying Scooble is the one who's had the most success, and Mize and Manning are practically on their way out the door as
No.
Tarek Scooble is about to wrap up his first Cy Young award. I mean, I never in a billion years would have thought that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's unfortunate because I really wanted Mize, Manning, and Scooble to be like this ferocious big three, almost a la Verlander, Scherzer, Porcello, but it just never happened, and I don't ever think it's going to happen. I still think there's a world where maybe a Casey Mize or a Matt Manning can be a serviceable number five, or as you said, maybe you convert them into a long reliever, but yeah, it's definitely weird, and also the writing is on the wall, right? Because with Casey Mize's contract stuff that went on already early on this offseason, you know, the team to me was pretty much like, yeah, we're going to keep you around, but it's not going to be for much longer. So, and we're not going to be paying you some absorbent amount of money because you haven't earned it, and I
Yeah.
can't disagree with him there. He's been pretty darn underwhelming in his professional career. Casey Mize has.
Keider Montero.
Keep him. Big
Yeah.
Cater guy.
Yeah.
Huge Cater guy. I've been reading a bunch of things that like people are like doing projected rotations for next season. And on a lot of people's projected rotations, he's not in there. And to me, I think that's
Yeah. That,
ridiculous.
that seems
Cater, Mon-
incorrect.
Cater Montero was literally the only other starting pitcher in the second half of the season next to Tarek Skubal. That was it. So he earned his stripes from July to October, Keider Montero did. I know a little bit towards, I think his velocity was going down a little bit. Maybe his pitches weren't landing as much as they were going, right out of the All-Star break. But I think right now, in my opinion, and this is just excluding them potentially bringing anybody in, trades, etc. My top three pitchers going into opening day are Skubal, Olson, Keider, Montero. That's my three, and then you kind of can figure out 4 and 5 from there. But yeah, I think Keider Montero definitely deserves to definitely be kept and should be in the starting rotation come 2025.
Ty Madden.
Keep him. Yeah, again, a guy like we didn't see a ton from, so keep him. Yeah.
I went out of order in my list. Now I've
That's
confused
okay.
myself. Jackson Jobe.
Definitely keep him. Truly, a guy we saw 2 innings out of. So
Yeah.
we're going
Yeah.
to keep Jackson Jobe and
Like
see if there's
literally 2
anything else in
innings.
the tank. Yeah. So yeah, I'm fine with keeping him.
Sawyer Gibson Long and Wilmer Flores, I think, are both obvious keeps because
Yeah. Need to see more.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Which I think means Kenta Maeda is the only person we haven't talked about.
Well, I was just about to say it's been such a positive show today, but it only feels right as this may potentially be our last or second to last episode of this year to go out on a negative note. Only the best way I can. Can't pitch Maeda, cannot pitch. And unfortunately, that's his main job as a baseball player, especially a pitcher. So, no disrespect, Kenta. You got to go. Cut with a capital C.
Yep. His pitching WAR was negative 1.7.
Him?
I want you to guess what Zach McKinstry's pitching WAR was.
His is negative 1.7. I'm going to say McKinstry's was, I'm going to say it was like 0.6.
It wasn't quite that good, but it was a negative 0.3. We were better with Zach McKinstry on the mound by almost 1.5 games.
Yep.
Than we were with Kenta Maeda on the mound.
Yep.
Which is I mean, it just goes to show that like how hard a business this is because I think we were both like, all right, Kenta Maeda, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. In this
Shelby
rotation.
Miller we liked, yeah.
And then it was a disaster. It was an utter disaster. I mean,
I'm man enough to admit that when those moves both happened last offseason, Maeda and Flaherty coming to Detroit, I was like, oh, Kenta Maeda is going to be a great fit for this team. Jack Flaherty, I don't know so much about because he's been struggling, but I think Kenta is going to be an excellent addition to this rotation. Flaherty was the one for me who was under the microscope, and boy, oh boy, I misread that one because one guy went on to win a World Series and one guy didn't even get to be on the playoff roster. So, yeah, to each their own.
Yeah. And kind of on the Chris Fetter note, I sent this text in the group chat, and this kind of moves us out of Keider keep him into the wrap up of the show. That I think the Tigers have a shot at Sasaki because of Chris Fetter, because he mentions a team's track record with player development. And while the pre-Fetter Hinch player development track record, not great, the way in which Fetter has rehabbed pitcher careers, I think puts them in the running.
Agreed.
And also obviously, like, the other thing that everybody's made hay of is that everybody's sort of in the running because he is coming early over to Major League Baseball. So it's an amateur player being added as opposed to a professional. So the bonus is going to be lower. I don't think we're going to see a move before the end of the year on that front, just because I think it makes the most business sense if you're Sasaki to let everybody's bonus pools reset. And but I think that Federer gives them a shot if they want to go that route. Luke, your thoughts on the Tigers trying to pursue Sasaki?
Um, I don't think it will happen. Could it happen? Sure. I don't think it will happen. I think, as always, you're going to see these big franchises: the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Red Sox. They're always going to be the first names that are ever listed above a team like the Tigers. But given the fact of the player development standpoint that that was brought up, definitely I think could happen because the Tigers clearly have a good track record, especially within the last few seasons in particular, of developing players and getting them to a spot where they want to be, especially on the pitching side of the game. So yeah, could it happen? Sure. Do I think it will happen? No, I don't. But hey, stranger things have happened, so maybe it will. You never know. I just want, honestly, more than anything, I just want. This has been, now that World Series is come and gone. Dodgers won, great, good stuff. Now let's get to some moves, man. I'm ready for this hot
Mm-hmm.
stove to get hot. I mean, I know we're in the midst of football, basketball, and hockey season, but man, I'm ready for this hot stove to get hot, piping hot. Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. The other one I want to put you on the spot about, Luke, is that
Mm-hmm.
there's the rumblings that Max and Justin could come back.
Yeah, I have read that.
Do you want to see them back in Tiger uniforms?
Hmm. Um, that's a tough one. I would have said a year ago, absolutely, I do, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a crazy thing to say, but I don't really know where they fit in right now. Like, I guess if you're going, like, if you go the route of, like, all right, we're going to give it to Skubal, Reese Olson, a Jackson Job, and then are you just handing Scherzer and Verlander those? Because then you're leaving a lot of guys out in the cold: the Ty Maddens, Sawyer Gibson
Mm-hmm.
Long, Keider Montero, Brant Herter, Casey Mize, Matt Manning. Like, you're putting a lot of guys who are either players that you want to continue to develop and see where they're going, or guys like Mize and Manning who are like, this is kind of their last bullet. And you're you're kind of screwing a good young core of pitchers just to bring in two older guys to almost kind of please the fans. Now, if they brought in one of the guys, I'd be okay with that. But I don't see where they bring in both of them, if any, quite frankly. I know the Verlander reunion has been teased for many, many years. I don't know if we're ever actually going to see it. I would like to see it. I just don't know if it ever actually happens. And at this point, I mean, it's a good problem for us to have. I don't know if it really needs to. I mean,
Yeah,
they've got there's, and even if they are going to go out and sign pitchers, which I think they are going to do, there are quite a few other pitchers I would like to see before Justin Verlander. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of my all time favorite baseball players, not even just Tigers players, but just actual baseball players. Um, I don't really see a world as to why he would need to be back, him or Max. But if it happened, I think it'd be cool. I think it would definitely
mm-hmm.
play to the nostalgia. But it almost feels like if it was going to happen, they should have done it in 2023 when Miggy was doing his final year. But I don't think it happens. I don't really think it needs to happen. If it happened, I'd be like, all right, I guess this is fine. But I do think it would come at the price of potentially boxing out some young pitchers
Yeah,
who definitely need the experience. Like, I will put it to you this way: I don't want to see a guy like Jackson Jobe lose his spot in the starting rotation because we're trying to relive some magic from 10 years ago with Max and Justin. So if it's going to come at the price of that, I don't want it to happen.
yeah. I would agree. I would agree with that take, and I definitely think that I come down on it with you that there's maybe a spot for one of them. There's not
Mm-hmm.
a spot for both of them, and
Mm-hmm.
only there is a spot for one of them if you are adding them as the fourth, fifth starter that you're probably not planning to go deep into games. That is almost
Mm-hmm.
in like an opener spot, just because they both have had plenty of injury issues the last few years.
Yeah.
And you're adding them for the idea of somebody who's going to be there to mentor
Right.
these younger pitchers as this club transforms into a championship club. Because you know none of these guys had playoff experience until this year, and
Mm-hmm.
so having somebody in that presence that like has won World Series, has played for World Championships,
Mm-hmm.
could be a good presence to have in in that clubhouse, and I think Justin is much more that guy than Max is that guy.
Yeah, the mentorship point is really valid because that is something I think could be very beneficial, regardless if it was to be a Max or a Justin. Also, though, one thing we got to keep in mind is not that we're TMZ here, but reports indicate that Scherzer and Verlander, like, they're not buddies. Like,
Yeah,
we've read some things like they don't even like each other. Like they don't even really get along all that much from everything we've read. So it's not a thing where it's like, come on, dude, let's go relive the glory days for one more season, buddy, old pal. We're the Bash Bros. It's like these guys don't even really like each
yeah.
other
It's not a
from
band that
everything we've
wants to get
read.
back together.
Right. Yeah. So it's like they obviously are two great pitchers, but it's not like they were like best pals. Like if it was like a Miggy Verlander thing, who they always kind of had that fun, playful camaraderie, absolutely that makes sense. But Verlander and Scherzer, from everything at least we've read and have heard, through the rumor mill, is that they're not even that close. Some even say they don't like each other. So I
Yeah,
don't know why they would be like, let's reunite in Detroit for one more go around. Like it wouldn't really make any sense at this point. I think you maybe see a Verlander reunion because I think that's the thing people have been clamoring for many, many years. And I think there would be, again, something that would be cool about it. But to reiterate, if it's coming at the expense of a guy like a Brant Herter or a Jackson Jobe, and you're going to be taking away innings from those guys, I don't really like it. But I do like your point about the mentorship because having a Justin Verlander who can go out there every 5 days, and when he's not out there mentoring this young
hmm
crop of pitchers, I think that would be incredibly beneficial.
yeah. It's kind of like if like we know that they're going to sign a starter or two this
Mm-hmm.
offseason. Then if you're going to go the route of signing an innings eater,
Mm-hmm.
I would rather you sign Justin Verlander
Yeah.
than obviously not
Jose Urena.
Jose Urena, but a Jose Urena type guy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like I would rather run the risk of a not at his prime Verlander, who can maybe consistently give you 5 innings of good pitching,
Mm-hmm.
than some other random innings eater. But ideally, you're going to go out and sign two plug right into your rotation, 2, 3 starter guys.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Interesting to see what happens. Let's get this hot stove going. I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. Let's get the hot stove hot.
Yeah, you hear that, Scott Boras? We want action. I know
Let's
you want to
go.
get paid. Get to work. Get to work, buddy. You're the one holding it up.
Let's do it. Just you, Scott. Come on.
It's all your freaking clients.
Yeah. Let's go. Hot, hot, hot.
All right. Well, hopefully some hot stove action will happen. We'll probably be back one more time before the end of the year, folks, as
I
we
like
kind
that.
of get ready for our long winter's nap. But Pitchers and Catchers report in just a few months, folks. We're almost there. But right now, let's get a Lions Super Bowl as we wait for that to happen. Luke, have a good one.
See you, buddy.